Rabbi, Shana Tova. You look very hippie. How are you keeping? Good.
What do you do to Carol?
No, she was not up to it this morning.
Boker Tov, everyone. Boker Tov, you respond with Boker Or. Right. Boker Tov. Boker Shana Tova, everyone. It's good to be together this morning. It's wonderful to see so many of your faces here in person in our sanctuary this morning, as well as welcoming everyone who's joining us on our live stream. Wherever you're joining us from, we're glad that you're here to celebrate Rosh Hashanah here at Solel. And before we begin our opening song this morning, we're going to share a message from our board of directors.
Good morning. Before our service begins, I want to take a brief moment to wish you and your loved ones a very hearty Shana Tova on behalf of Solel's board of directors. We're sorry that the pandemic is still preventing us from greeting you all with a big smile, a hearty handshake, and a piece of candy. At the same time, we're delighted that those who can and who feel comfortable joining us in person are with us in the sanctuary this year. And of course, we're thrilled to have you join us through our live stream as well. As many of you know, Solel has always encouraged doing tzedakah during the high holidays. As we do each year, we're asking you to consider giving to organizations which promote liberal Judaism in the land of Israel. And one of my board colleagues will have more to say about that at the beginning of our Kol Nidre service on Erev Yom Kippur. On Rosh Hashanah, we traditionally ask you to consider donating to causes closer to home. With the extraordinary circumstances of the past year and a half, we'd like you to consider 3 choices for giving. First, if you haven't already, we want to strongly encourage you to become a member of Pathway. Pathway Nonprofit Community Developments provides decent, affordable housing that nurtures community and the well-being of people of no, low, or modest income. As you know, Solel is one of 3 congregations who came together to do this important work in Peel over 30 years ago. Becoming a member of Pathway is very inexpensive, only $10 per person per year. By becoming a member, you help to support the excellent work that Pathway is doing. Secondly, I'd like to encourage you to make a donation to the Mississauga Food Bank. During the pandemic, many people have suffered economic hardship along with all of the other challenges that COVID has brought. And food insecurity has been a bigger problem than ever in our community. A cash donation to the Mississauga Food Bank allows them to get just the right kinds of food which they need to help people in need. It's very easy to donate online, and it's a great mitzvah to share with those who need it most. Finally, I'd like to encourage you to consider making a goodwill donation to Solel. We're the only place in Mississauga where all Jews are welcome and equal, regardless of background, gender, orientation, or theology. Solel is a force for good in the community and a leader in interfaith dialogue. By supporting Solel, you're helping us to provide facilities and programs from which we all benefit, and more importantly, you're enabling us all to come together as a welcoming and supportive Jewish community. You can support these causes by contacting the Solel office, or you can donate online anytime at solel.ca/support. Thank you, and Shana Tova.
Thank you, Joel. And now we're going to begin our service with Hine Matov, how good and how pleasant it is that we are together. You can find that on page 50 if you are following at home, and you have a booklet ready for you if you're here with us in the sanctuary. Don't morning, we chant blessings, thanking God for our bodies and our souls. The Talmud, Rosh Hashanah 27a, declares that the world was created on Rosh Hashanah. Today is the world birthday. And Leviticus Rabbah teaches us that Rosh Hashanah marks the creation of human beings. Our tradition views this as the season of creative energy and new beginnings, which is a time of growth and self-transformation. And so as we begin our prayers together on this Rosh Hashanah, we offer prayers of gratitude for this day, for growth and transformation, an opportunity to breathe, to stretch. Let's all stretch. Take in a deep breath, those of you under your masks, and be grateful for this opportunity to greet a new day together. We're going to sing together the words of Asher Yatzar. You'll find those words on page 50. Responsibly in the reading at the bottom of page 50 with Danielle Morel.
A reading by Stacy Zisuk Robinson. I stand here, ready to begin again, to follow this road of dust that stretches before me, but I cannot see where it bends and splits and turns on it itself. I have walked this road before 7 times 7, and then 7 more. Brought here, returned here, again and again, and yet the road is still mystery. Together, David's heart urges me, and the horns of Abraham's dilemma push me, and Jacob's ladder is crowded with angels. They move aside not without some attitude, so I may stumble up those narrow rungs. Still, elevated though I am, there is only dust and a blaze of glory in the far distance. I am meant to follow with open hands and open my heart to feel the quickening of my blood that moves in equal time with my shame and my joy, my fear and love, my grief and ecstasy, so that I may claim them as they have claimed me, so that I may dance at the gates and be whole.
We turn now to page 52 as we rise in body and in spirit for the words of the Baruch Hu. standing, you may be seated as we join together responsibly in the words of Yotzer Or in the English with Benny and Leora Singer.
We praise you, eternal God, whose presence fills creation, creator of light and darkness, who makes peace and gives life to all. With compassion, you illumine the world and its inhabitants. Through your goodness, creation is continually renewed.
How you have varied your works. All of them were made with wisdom. The universe is filled with your creative power. The stars and planets themselves radiate praise for you.
Cause a new light to shine upon Zion, and may we be worthy to behold its splendor.
We praise you, Eternal One, Creator of light.
And we join together responsibly in the words of Ahava Rabbah with Shauna Scribeslow and Jen Smith.
You give us abundant love, our beloved God, and show us great compassion. One both near and far, our ancestors trusted in you, and so you taught them the laws of life. For their sake, we now pray that you teach us.
Merciful God, nurture us and instruct our hearts to understand and discern. Hearken, learn, and teach. Observe, do, and fulfill all your teachings in love.
Enlighten us with your Torah, inspire us to embrace your mitzvot, and unify us to love and revere your name. May we never be shamed as long as we trust in your holy, great, and awe-inspiring name. We shall rejoice and know happiness and redemption, since you move all things toward completion.
Bring us in peace from the four corners of the earth, and lead us proudly back to God. You have chosen to draw us near to you. With love we acknowledge you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, Eternal One, who chooses Israel with love.
And in love we rise in body or in spirit for the words of Shema and Ve'ahavta. We place these words on our hearts. We open our ears to listen, to hear. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levocha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol lehecha ve'aruhu hadvarim ha'ele Hashem Anochi mitzvahcha hayom ha'levecha v'shiata banecha v'hivatam v'shitecha v'techa u'lechtecha v'terech u'shofecha v'chunecha u'shatam levot ha'yidecha ve'ayudatot peinecha u'tatam al tizmot beitecha u'lisharecha למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני, אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Please be seated. The words of Geulah, redemption, remind us that at all times and all seasons, we have prayed for redemption. We commit ourselves to the act of doing tikkun olam, of world repair, and making sure that all who are not yet free will become free as we sing these words of Michamocha. Michamocha Elim Adonai, Michamocha Yedai HaKodesh, Torah Tzivita Osei Temet, Shira HaKadasha, Shichud Yedai words of the Amidah, literally the standing prayer, or sometimes called simply Hatfilah, the prayer, we think about what the word prayer means. Prayer means many things and takes many forms. It can be reciting these words in the Siddur, words of fixed prayer, or kava. Prayer can be unburdening yourself to God. Prayer can be laughing or crying or dancing or painting or singing. Prayer is a communication, a conversation. Whether you consider yourself to be a regular prayer or not, in its simplest form, prayer is calling out to the force, energy, spirit of the universe that we call God. And we rise together now to continue that conversation on page 55. Sur Yisrael, Kulam Ezra Yisrael, Uveichim Mecha Yehuda Yisrael, Lo Aleinu, Adonai Tzvot Shemo, Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai, Lo Yisrael, Adonai Sefatai Tifta, Uvi Agitei Latecha, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Ha'adon Ha'gibor Ha'adonai, El Elyon, Gomer Chasarim Tovim, Lekanei Yaakov, Zocher Chasdei Avot Umei Yehuda Livnei, Le'an Shemo Le'ah, Zochreinu Lechaim, Melech Haaretz B'chaim, V'chochreinu B'sefer Please be seated. On Rosh Hashanah it is written, and Yom Kippur it is sealed. These prayers in our Machzor were written by people out of their own lives, their own experiences and understandings. We often struggle with these words because we hold the Machzor in such high regard. We try to figure out how we can believe them. And our prayers speak in many metaphors, the same ideas that we struggle with, they did too. The traditional words of the Unatana Tokef has a long list of ways that people die, and the purpose of this piyut is to shock us into the realization of our own mortality, especially during these last 2 years. Some of these words may hit us harder than they have in the past. This interpretation of the ancient words remind us that your book of life is written each and every day. You get to edit it by the choices that you make, what you want to emphasize, what you want to remember. and maybe even what parts you want to leave behind. On Rosh Hashanah it is written, on Yom Kippur it is sealed, that this year people will live and die, some more gently than others, and nothing lives forever. But amidst overwhelming forces of nature and humankind, we still write our own book of life, and our actions are the words in it, and the stages of our lives are the chapters, and nothing goes unrecorded ever. Every deed counts, everything you do matters, and we never know what act or word will leave an impression or tip the scales. So if not now, then when? For the things we can change, there is tshuva, realignment. For the things we cannot change, there is tefillah, prayer. For the help we can give, there is tzedakah, justice. Together, let us write a beautiful book of life for the Holy One to read. And I invite you to stand again for the words of the Kiddushah. Mekadesh et Shimcha Olam, Kashem Shemati Shemos Hovish Me'olam, Hakator Yad Niracham, V'kara Zem Zem Olam, Kadosh Kadosh Kadosh, Adonai Tzevaot, Melech Haaretz, Gemodo, Adir Adirenu Adonai, Adonai Adir, Shimcha b'chol haaretz, Baruch Elon Adonai, Echad Eloheinu, Hu Avinu Eloheinu, Hu Moshiachenu Yeshirenu, Beracham Lehi Kol Chai, Ani Adonai Elechem, Nimloch Adonai Le'olam, Elohai Tzion, Le'dor Please be seated, and we join responsibly now on the top of page 61 with a view of Antime.
To all generations, we will make known your greatness, and to all eternity proclaim your holiness. Your praise, O God, shall never depart from our lips. Lord our God, cause all your works to stand in awe before you, and all that you have made to tremble at your presence. Let all that lives revere you, and all creation turn to you in worship. Let them all become a single family, doing your will with a perfect heart. For well we know, O Lord our God, that yours is the majesty, yours the might, and awesome is your name in all creation. Grant honor, Lord, to your people. Glory to those who revere you, help to those who seek you, and courage to those who trust you. Bless your land with gladness and your city with joy, and cause the light of redemption to dawn for all who dwell on earth. Then the just shall see and exult, the upright be glad, and the faithful sing for joy. Violence shall rage no more, and evil shall vanish like smoke. The rule of tyranny shall pass away from the earth, and you alone, O Lord, shall have dominion over all your works, as it is written. The Lord shall reign forever, your God, O Zion, from generation to generation. Hallelujah. You are holy, awesome is your name. There is no God but you. The Lord of hosts is exalted by justice. The holy God is sanctified by righteousness. Blessed is the Lord, the Holy King.
On this day of Rosh Hashanah, this first morning of the new year, we ask God to remember us. Please join with us at the top of page 62. We invite you now to join with Horace Brown in the words of the Avodah in the middle of page 62.
Be gracious, eternal God, to your people Israel, and receive our prayers with love. While may our worship be acceptable to you, Fill us with the knowledge that you are near to all who seek you in truth. Let our eyes behold your presence in our midst and among our people in Zion. We praise your eternal one who brings us Shekhinah to Zion.
Now we join together in words of Hoda'ah, the words of Modim. Modim We take a few moments now to pray the words of our own hearts. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, O God, Rock and Redeemer. About a year ago, really, I think about this time last year, I heard this song. Maybe you heard it too. It went like this. This is the keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going on song. This is the keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going on song. Anyone hear that? All right, maybe I listen to a lot of music you don't listen to. I listen to a lot of folk music. And that was something that I came across right as it was released. And it's a tune that was written by Abigail and Sean Bankson. They're married and they're musical partners as well. And they share stories. That's kind of what they do. They write shows about stories. And this particular show was about living fully, even in moments of fear, and how to cultivate joy. And this one piece, this is the keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going on song, is the prelude to that production. And that basic melody line that I've been singing, keep going on, throughout this whole piece has other vocals and the story layered on top of it. So the entire album is subtitled Live from Our Home at the End of the World, and it was recorded in the home of Sean's parents because that's where they had landed in March of 2020. And Abigail starts out singing, we packed up our 3-year-old and we drove far to be in a safe place, and we thought we'd be there for like 10 days tops. What did we know, she sings? What did we know? We keep going, we keep going, we keep going on. And as I listen to this, it speaks to me as a prayer in the moment. It's spontaneous, it's from the heart, it's asking and answering, what is it that sustains us? What is it that keeps us going on? So on Rosh Hashanah, we begin with a blessing of thanksgiving. The words of Shehechianu. Shehechianu, V'kiyamanu, V'higianu, Lazman Hazeh. And we recite these words to mark the most special and sacred moments of our lives. Those can be big moments. They can be small moments. They can be a special occasion in our lives, like something, a wedding, a new baby, reuniting with a friend for the first time after 30 days. It can be a small moment, like eating the new fruits of the season. And of course, this is a bracha, a prayer, a blessing that we recite at the start of every major holiday in the Jewish calendar. We take a moment to pause in recognition of those extra special moments, what my sister-in-law calls Kodesh moments. Thank you, Rabbi Marla Spanger. The extraordinary in the ordinary. That first word, Shehechianu, it means we're thankful for you giving us life. The second word, V'kiyamanu, means for sustaining us, literally what makes us continue to exist. And the third verb, V'higianu, and the rest of the phrase, V'higianu lazman hazeh, means we are thankful for being enabled to reach this particular moment. So, in short, we are alive, we're here, and we've made it this far. We keep going on. We utter this prayer, these words of blessing, out of our thankfulness for what keeps us going on. This year and a half especially, we're even more acutely aware of the meaning of these words, that we are alive, we're here, and we keep going on. In reciting them, we choose to take this moment to be grateful for survival, for sustenance, and arriving to this particular moment and finding what's good in it. All the while we are acutely aware that we can't always take for granted what will come in the next moment. So we smile with gratitude in this moment for arriving here and now. Over the summer, I invited you to respond to a series of questions in my blog for the Shamas about how our world and your personal world has changed, and what has helped you to keep going on. What are the moments of beauty that you've experienced, I asked. What have you learned? How have you changed? What or who has been a light for you or has sustained you in this pandemic time? And thank you to all who shared your thoughts with me, because this morning I want to share with you some of those responses. Don't worry, I'm sharing them anonymously, and some of them have been aggregated a bit. But here are just some of the responses that I received. I discovered how little I actually need. I learned I could do with less things. I learned I had way too many clothes in my closet, and I enjoyed being low maintenance. I realized how it felt so good to do without material things that we don't actually need, but for some reason we convince ourselves that we need. Gave me a chance to focus on what really matters. It's not how much you have, but who you share it with. Another response. I found joy in nature. My deck became the most important part of my house. I learned that fresh air and green trees and bird feeders nourished my soul, and that it was enough, and spending time appreciating the outdoors and walking helped my mood. I learned to slow down and adjust to a simpler way of being. No rushing here and there, picking up this, buying that. I got back to cooking from scratch and doing puzzles. And I found out how much my kids really do like each other, and it was amazing to see them helping each other. Another answer. This time has been really stressful. I'm still working on finding ways to keep from being overwhelmed by the news about COVID and all of the terrible things that are going on in the world. It's amazing how hobbies keep the mind engaged and lower my anxiety levels. I'm tremendously grateful for my friends who made the effort to keep in touch when it was less easy to do so. When I didn't hear from certain friends in many days, I picked up the phone because I realized not everyone was doing fine. And I realized the importance of reaching out to friends who are feeling too low to reach out. I learned that I'm not as much of an introvert as I thought. As someone who lives alone, I'm tremendously grateful for phone and Zoom. Not being able to see another human being in person for weeks on end was much harder than I had ever imagined. I found it essential to let the little things go, and I was reminded to keep close to those I love and to take nothing for granted. I am working on saying no to some things because this COVID time has changed my perspective, and I realized that prioritizing other elements beyond work is really important. On the flip side, I've realized that I simply don't have enough time to say no any longer to the things that really matter. Saying yes to opportunities with family and friends and travel and learning has taken on increased urgency, and I will never take the small things like dinner with family and friends for granted again. I became even more aware of how privileged I am. My family and I, we've been able to get through this pandemic with food and shelter and access to good medical care and the support of family. It's made me more determined to work for social justice and contribute to efforts toward making the world better for others who have navigated this pandemic time in very different circumstances. I saw how my coworkers approved and supported each other and pulled together in a crisis. And at the same time, I became acutely aware of how stress can bring out either the best or the worst in humanity. We all make choices. I chose compassion and patience and respect. We are connected around the world, not only by things like our relationships and the internet, but by our global health, and I hope by our humanity and our kindness. My friends, my family members, especially my grandchildren, they've given me hope each and every day. And the last one is one of my personal favorites because I can definitely relate to this answer. I've learned my addiction to chocolate is worse than I suspected. So thank you for everyone who shared your thoughts this morning. This past year has given many of us a much deeper conscious understanding of what it means to recite those words of Shehachianu, because human life is layered with the complexity of experiences and feelings. And it's okay to acknowledge that this time has also brought many of us tears and grief and anxiety and frustration. We are wired for survival, to notice what is amiss, and that is good for our physical survival. But at the same time, it also means we are vulnerable to focusing on what keeps us from being here and being okay. And for that reason, how much the more so, it is especially important to mark and bless that which keeps us going on in this time of great uncertainty and ambiguous loss. So these beautiful responses to what keeps you going on that you have shared teaches us that tuning into consciously what restores us to a feeling of aliveness and connects us to what is right in the world can keep us from being overwhelmed with the consciousness of what is or can and does go wrong. And that is in itself is life-sustaining. The Shehachianu really is a blessing, thanking God for allowing us to survive another year, which is not something we're meant to take for granted. At the beginning of this new year of 5782, we give thanks for all that keeps us going on. We are grateful to have reached this day, Hayom, and to welcome this new year. And although all that we hope for hasn't yet arrived, we are so grateful for all that we still have, for life, for sustenance, and for reaching this day. So we say, Shehachianu. Thank you, God, for keeping us alive and helping us find reasons to live. V'kiyamanu, for sustaining us and inspiring us to sustain others. V'higianu lazman hazeh, for being here now for the blessings of today and all of those blessings to come. We keep going on. L'shana tova tikatenu, to a new year full of life, full of health, and of blessings. I invite you to join with me in singing these words of Shehechionu this morning on this first day of the new year. Please join me now on page 63 for the words of Avinu Malkeinu. Loving Father, infinite power, gentle, forgiving, lofty, inscrutable. Avinu Malkeinu. Compassionate Mother, omnipotent Lord, comforting presence, fathomless mystery. Avinu Malkeinu. Our rock and our Redeemer, life of the universe, close to us always, impossibly far. Avinu Malkeinu. Embracing, confounding, accepting our frailty, decreeing our end. Avinu Malkeinu. None of these are true, none of them are you, yet we stand as those before us have stood, summoned to judgment, longing for love. Avinu Malkeinu. May these words be a bridge. They come from our hearts. May they lead us to you. We rise. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, we have sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu ve'al olalenu v'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, have mercy on us and our children. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Dever v'cher v'ra'av, Mushvi u'mashchit. Avinu Malkeinu, make an end to disease, war, famine, exile, and destruction. Avinu Malkeinu, chafer atzat oivenu. Avinu Malkeinu, destroy the power of every oppressor and adversary. Avinu Malkeinu, kotvenu b'sefer chaim tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in your book for a life of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh aleinu shana tova. Avinu Malkeinu, let a new year be a good year for us. Avinu Malkeinu, malei yadeinu miberchotecha. Avinu Malkeinu, fill our hands with blessing. Avinu Malkeinu, chanenu va'anenu, ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, be gracious and answer us. Even when we have no merit, treat us with kindness and love, and be our help. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Kaneinu Aleinu, Ki ein banu כפיים ורב חסד ואמת, נוסר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטאה ונקה. Adonai, Adonai our God is merciful and gracious, patient, loving, and true, showing mercy to thousands, forgiving evil, wrongdoing, and sin, and granting pardon. Adonai, Adonai, Elohim Bechayim, Erech HaChaim, Baruch Chesed ve'emet, Noser Chesed la'alafim, Noser on v'chesha v'chata'ah v'nakeh. Beit Yaakov l'chuven elcha be'or Adonai, O house of Jacob, come let us walk by the light of the eternal. Baruch Shematan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shematan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Eloheinu, Kadosh V'narashno. Gadol Adonai iti, U'niromema Shemo Yachdav. Lecha Adonai, Ha'geula, V'ha'gibura, V'ha'tiveret, V'ha'netzach, V'ha'od. Ki po b'shamayim u'ba'aretz, Ki po b'shamayim u'ba'aretz, V'cha Adonai ha'malacha, Ve'amid na'aseh, V'chol erosh. Please be seated. On this first morning of Rosh Hashanah, we are reading the story of the Akedat Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac, which is in Genesis 22. In this challenging story, we wrestle with many questions. How could Abraham do this? What was God asking of Abraham? What about Isaac and Sarah, whose voices are not heard? Our rabbinic commentators understand this drama as a test of Abraham's faith, of his trust, and his obedience. The sound of the shofar, the horn of the ram that spared Isaac, calls to us with the sounds of hope and redemption. For the first Aliyah this morning, we call it as our chanter Leo Van Time. And then we're going to follow along with our Gabbai for this morning, Eleanor Stock, as she leads us through the Aliyot. But first we're going to call our Torah reader, and I invite you to join with the bracha as our Aliyot are called. We're at the bottom of page 67. Ya'amod Eliezer Avraham ben Avraham HaKohen Hira L'Kriyat HaTorah.
For the first Aliyah, we have Ted Greenberg representing the past presidents of Solel. Ya'amod Rishon, Mi'atzeg HaNesiei Ever Shel Solel, Tuvia ben Zisman V'Rivka.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvara. Baruch Adonai Hamvara. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher b'charbanu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch et Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayehi אחר הדברים האלה והאלוהים נישא את אברהם ויאמר אליו אברהם ויאמר הנני ויאמר קח נא את בנך את יחידך אשר אהבת את יצחק ולך לך אל ארץ המוריה והעלהו שם לעולה על אחד ההרים אשר אומר אליך וישכם אברהם בבוקר ויחבוש את חמורו ויקח את שני נעריו איתו ואת יצחק בנו ויבקע עולה ויקום וילך אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tocheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Yeshar koach echem. For the second aliyah this morning, we call upon Gitu Noruzi. Ta'amod tova bat Avraham v'Sara l'kriyat haTorah.
For the second aliyah, we have Rita Grossman representing the women of Solel. תעמוד שנייה, מייצגת נשים של סולל, רחל בת יוסף ומרים.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן.
אמן. ביום השלישי ויישא אברהם את עיניו וירא את המקום מרחוק ויאמר אברהם את נעריו שבו לכם פה עם החמור ואני בהנער נלכה עד כה ונשתחווה ונשובה עליכם ויקח אברהם את עצי העולה וישם על יצחק בנו ויקח בידו את האש ואת המאכן וילכו שניהם יחדיו ויאמר יצחק אל אברהם אביו ויאמר אבי ויאמר הנני בני ויאמר הנה האש והיצים והיעצה לאור ויאמר אברהם אלוהים ירלו הצלולה בני וילכו שניהם יחדיו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata botachenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yashar Kolchech. For the third Aliyah this morning, we call upon Nicole Hansen. Ta'amon nitzabat Avraham v'Sara l'kriyat haTorah.
For the third Aliyah, we have Jocelyn Weber representing the beautification of Solel. Tamon Shlishi Ifei et Solel Yaakova bat Avraham v'Sara.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach. Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'anim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayavo Ahamakom Asher Melo Elohim Vayivei Sham Avraham et HaMizbeach Vayarok et HaYotzim Vayakot et Yitzhak beno Vayasem oto al HaMizbeach mima'al ha'etzim Vayishlach Avraham et yado Vayikach et ha'machelet lishchot et beno Vayikra Malach Adonai min hashamayim Vayomer Avraham Vayomer hineni Vayomer al tishlach yadecha el hanahar V'yataz lo merumah Ki atah yodati Ki yarei Elohim atah V'lo hasata Et pinha et yahidecha mimeni
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan banu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'chatenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Yashar Kolchech. Our Haftarah for this morning is taken from the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 1, verses 5 through 20. And you'll find that on page 72. It is the story of Hannah and the birth of her son Samuel, perhaps the most important of all the judges in the Tanakh, in the Hebrew Bible. In it, we hear the story of how Hannah prays for a child, and the intensity of her prayers are the first example of personal prayers of the heart, and a model for us in voicing our own kavanot, our own intentions in prayer. For the Haftarah this morning, we call upon Sherry Stock. Ta'amod Sarah bat David ve'elka hamaftira.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech
ועבדו, ובישראל עמו, ובנביאי האמת והצדק. ותקם חנה אחרי אחלה ושילה, ואחרי שתו, ואלי הכהן יושב על הכיסא, על מזוזת היכל אדוני, והיא מחת נפש, ותתפלל על אדוני, ובכה תבכה. ותדור נדר, ותאמר, אדוני צבאות, אם רעות תראה בעני אמתך, וזכרתני ולא תשכח את אמתך, ונתת לאמתך זרע אנשים, ונתתי לאדוני כל ימי חייו, ומורא לא יעלה על ראשו. והיה כי הרבתה להתפלל לפני אדוני, ואלי שומר את פיה, וחנה היא מדברת על ליבה, רק שפתיה נאות, וקולה לא יישמע, ויחשביה אלי לשיכורה. ויאמר אליה אלי, עד מתי תשתכרין? חסירי את עינך מעלייך. ותען חנה ותאמר לו, אדוני, אישה קשת רוח אנוכי, ויין ושכר לא שתיתי, ואשפוך את נפשי לפני אדוני. אל תיתן את אמתך לפני בת בליעל, כי מרוב שיחי וחסי דיברתי על הינם. ויען אלי ויאמר לכי לשלום, ואלוהי ישראל ייתן את שאלתך אשר שאלת מאמו. ותאמר תמצא שפחתך חן בעיניך, ותלך אישה לדרכה ותאכל, ופניה לא היו לה עוד. וישכימו בבוקר, וישתחוו לפני אדוני, וישובו ויבואו אל ביתם הרמתם, וידע אלקנה את חנה אשתו, ויזכרה אדוני, ויהי לתקופות הימים, v'tahar chana v'telet bein v'tikra et shemo Shmuel ki me Adonai she'iltiv Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam tzur kol ha'olamim Tzadik b'chol hadorot, ha'el ha'neman, ha'omer v'oseh, ha'medaber u'mkayim, shechol devarav, emet v'tzedek, al ha'torah, ve'al ha'vodah, ve'al ha'nvi'im, ve'al yom ha'zikaron hazeh, shenatata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, lechavod ultifaret, al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, umvarchim otach, yitbarach shimcha, befi kochai tamid leolam va'ed, udvarcha emet v'kayam la'ad, baruch ata Adonai, melech hakol ha'aretz, mekadesh Yisrael, b'yom hazikaron.
Yeshar kochech. Thank you to all that participated in reading and chanting this morning for our Torah and Haftarah. We turn now to the words of Seder Tikiyat Shofar, the order for the sounding of the shofar, on the top of page 75. ובחודש השביעי, באחד לחודש מקרא קודש, יהיה לכם, כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו, יום תרועה יהיה לכם. In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, there shall be a sacred assembly, a cessation from work, a day of commemoration proclaimed by the sound of the shofar. The mitzvah is not to sound the shofar, but lishmoa kol shofar, to heed the voice of the shofar. So what does it mean to heed the voice of the shofar? Maimonides taught, kol shofar is meant to awaken us. Like sleepwalkers, we pass through our days with eyes open, but minds asleep. The voice of the shofar announces, wake yourself up, let my sound penetrate to your core. Our shofar service is built on 3 themes: Malchuyot, God's sovereignty; Zichronot, remembering our sacred relationship; and Shofarot, we are called to listen. We continue responsibly with Sue and Dennis Norton.
A prayer for sounding the shofar.
Dear God, Moses, placed in the basket by the river, kept silent, too frightened to cry.
Abraham, walking up the mountain with Isaac, kept silent, refusing to give way to the wild sounds of his own grief.
When Aaron's children were taken from him, Aaron was silent, for there were no words.
Ruth walked without a sound to the fields, for she could give no voice to her loss and her hope.
We too are fearful. We stay hidden behind our respectable masks, our tears dried, our faces composed. Our fears are unexpressed, our cries buried deep within.
Like Moses, Abraham, Aaron, Rachel, we are too awed or too timid or simply too self-conscious to open our wounds to the world.
You have given us a way to cry. Behind the thicket, Abraham found the ram and the instrument of our expression. The shofar will cry for us.
In the shivarim, the brokenness that affects our hearts. In the teruah, the blasts of pain or hope or recognition that sometimes sear our souls. In the tekiah, the hope for wholeness. We cry out from healing as we do from hurt. We cry in supplication, in loss, in love.
Dear God, help us learn the sounds of the shofar, the sound of our history, the sound of our sorrows.
Let it draw us closer to you with each blast, with each whispered promise, with each unspoken prayer.
Tekiah Gedala, for ourselves, our ancestors, our children, let us listen to the cries of the shofar. In each note is a secret, ancient anguish of the Jewish heart.
In its sound is our awakening and hope for redemption.
For the introduction to Malchuyot, we invite Kim Main and Emily Patnick to lead us responsively.
Malchuyot by Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt. What does it mean to proclaim your sovereignty when we don't understand kings? Before the Big Bang, there was you.
In the old year, we allowed habits to rule us. Help us throw off that yoke so our best selves may serve you.
Help us surrender. The cosmos is not under our control. Help us fall to our knees and find home in your embrace.
Let your power increase in the world. Help us to be unashamed of yearning. Strengthen our awe and our love so our prayers will soar.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. We turn to the top of page 78 for the blessings for sounding of the shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechianu v'kiyamanu v'hianu We rise for the sounding of the shofar. Our Baal Tekiah for the first set of calls this morning is Jacob Green. Tekiah, Shvarim Teruah. Jacob, please be seated. For the introduction to Zichronot, we continue responsibly at the top of page 79 with Daniel and Georgia Feynman.
Zichronot. God, remember us, not only our mistakes, but our good intentions and our tender hearts.
Remember our ancestors who for thousands of years have asked for forgiveness for the wail of the ram's horn.
Today again, we open ourselves to the calls of the shofar, reminding us sleepers, awake. We remember what happens most in our lives.
Help us shed old memories which no longer serve us. Help us instead to always remember you.
And we rise for the second set of shofar calls. Our Baal Tekiah for the second set of calls for Zichronot is Brad Bass. Tekiah, Shvarim Teruah. introduction to Shofarot, we call upon Brad Bass and Chris Bowden to lead us responsibly at the top of page 80.
The shofar reminds us of the ram in the thicket. Where are we? Too ensnared? Can our song set us free?
The sound of the shofar shatters our complacency. It wails with our grief and stutters with our inadequacy.
The shofar calls us to teshuvah. The shofar cries out, I was whole, I was broken, I will be whole again.
Make shofars of us, God. Breathe through us. Make of us resonating chambers for your love.
And our Baal Tekiah for the third set of calls this morning is Mark Botnick. Please rise. Shvarim we continue with Areshet Sefatenu. Areshet Sefatenu, Yarom Lefonecha, Erum Benisa. Areshet Sefatenu, Yarom Lefonecha, Erum Benisa. Mevinu Ma'azim, U'Mavitu Mashim, Lekol, Lekol, Tekiyateinu, U'Kabel Rachamim, U'Veratzon, Seder, Seder, Shofroteinu. At Solel, this is the moment in our Rosh Hashanah Morning Service that we pray words of healing together. And usually we invite everyone in need of healing to come forward and stand under the chuppah that we put up here in the front of the sanctuary, which is a symbol of God's presence. Things are a bit different this year as last year, and so this morning instead I ask you to imagine yourselves being held by the community as we pray words of healing. And we're going to pray a setting this morning that is call and response. So what I sing, you sing back to us. So we pray, Mishaberach Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah. May the one who brought blessings upon our ancestors bring blessing to us. May you bring to those who need healing and courage and strength. Bottom of page 82, we rise to return the Torah to the ark. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, K'nizgav Shmo Levado. Let us praise the name of Adonai, for God alone is exalted. Etz Chaim, Hashiveinu We remain standing for the words of Aleinu on page 83, in the middle of the page. Aleinu l'shamayim l'adon ha'kol, ateit glory atzer reshit, asher samchem li'achid et shelo, v'gor aleinu le'amich malchuto, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtavayim u'madim, livnei melech, malchei ha'rachim, ha'kadosh baruch hu. Please be seated. At this time, our thoughts turn to loved ones whom death has taken from us in recent days or those who died at this season in years past. Our hearts open as well to the wider circles of loss in our community and wherever grief touches the human family. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be for a blessing in this new year and always. At this time, we take a few moments to think about those for whom we are saying Kaddish this morning. If there's someone that you particularly are thinking of, you're invited to share their name aloud or to hold their name in your heart. And we ask those who are mourning to please rise first. As we say to you, Min hamakom tinachalu. May you find comfort in God's sheltering presence. Now as a community, we rise to say Kaddish for those who have no one to say it for them and to support those who are mourning. Page 84. Yikadal yikadash shemei rabah, ve'amad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayei kol v'yamekom, v'chayei kol beit Yisrael, ba'agalav v'zman kari v'yidramek. Yehei Shmei Rama Barach Le'olam La Me'almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei Kudasham Richu Le'ela V'yikol Mirchata V'shirata V'yishbekata V'nechemata Damiran Me'alma V'yimrameh Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru Amen Osei Shalom V'yimramav Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol b'nei Adam, ve'imru Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn, and comfort to all who are bereaved among us, among all the people of Israel, and among all the nations and families of earth. And let us say together, Amen. We close our service this morning with the words of Ein Keloheinu, which you'll find on page 86. Please join with us.
Come on.
life on this day of Rosh Hashanah, and in this unusual time in the world. We ask you to strengthen us, to give us courage, to grow and flourish within all that life presents. May we find peace and calm, a sense of shalom, of wholeness, and when we struggle, may our circles of family and friends support us and carry us through. May we share with others the gifts that we have been given. May we feel them reaching back to us. May your presence be with us and inspire us to walk paths of kindness, justice, and love. L'shana tova tikatevu. May we write beautiful passages in the book of life in 5782. Amen ve'amen. Shana tova, everyone. Thank you for being with us this morning. We wish you a beautiful, healthy, happy, and peaceful New Year. Shana tova.